Every great racing pigeon begins its journey not on the wing, but in the hands and eyes of the person who evaluates it. To understand a pigeon's true athletic potential, we must look deeper than feathers, farther than wing beats, and more carefully than the fleeting excitement of a race. Physical assessment is the gateway through which both tradition and science step together, a method that blends the seasoned instincts of the fancier with the measurable clarity of veterinary physiology. And when these two worlds align, we gain the ability to predict performance with a precision previous generations could only dream of. For centuries, fanciers evaluated pigeons through feel, balance, attitude, and the subtle rhythm of the bird in the hand. Today, we add to that a rich foundation of pathology, biomechanics, and metabolic science. But the core goal is the same: to understand when a bird is healthy, when it is at its competitive peak, and when hidden stress is quietly eroding performance. The physical evaluation is our opportunity to translate subjective impressions into objective knowledge, knowledge that guides training, selection, and long-term success. From this understanding, the assessment begins long before the bird is touched. The process always starts with distant observation. A healthy racing pigeon expresses vitality without speaking a word. A fit bird looks awake, alert, and responsive, what veterinarians call the BAR state. Watch how it carries itself on the loft perch. Does it hold a proud, bright posture, or does it sit withdrawn and heavy-eyed? Observe its willingness to fly, for a pigeon in form does not merely leave the loft, it launches with intent. When the birds take to the air, their behavior becomes a living graph of their fitness. Strong pigeons rise high, fly with purpose, and range confidently. They weave, duck, and string out into long lines across the sky. But when a bird lags behind, flies at a low altitude, or circles without drive, the body is telling us that something is wrong. Often, these subtle changes appear well before clinical symptoms, especially in the respiratory system, ever become visible. The pigeon is designed for high-demand aerobic work, and when oxygen transport becomes compromised, the first thing to falter is flight quality. Racing and training tosses offer more clues. Fit birds are bright in the basket and gather into a group as soon as they are released, accelerating away from the toss point with synchronized intent. The return home is equally important. A bird in form lands with energy, settles quickly, and returns to a calm respiratory rhythm. Recovery speed is one of the most powerful and underused indicators of true race readiness. A pigeon that arrives fatigued, fluffed, or slow recovering is not prepared to convert its training into victory. And then we look to the ground for evidence: the droppings. Each dropping is a small but meaningful report card from the digestive system. A healthy pigeon produces a well-formed fecal portion, white urates, and a small rim of clear urine. But when these components lose balance, when feces become watery, when urates become excessive, when color shifts toward green or brown, they signal stress, infection, or digestive imbalance. In serious cases, the eye itself begins to fade in color, a dramatic signal of systemic illness, such as coccidiosis or paratyphus. Hydration must never be ignored. A pigeon in training can lose significant fluid, and dehydration heavily impacts performance. Beyond observing urine content, we check the refill time of the ulnar vein. This simple hands-on test gives immediate insight into circulatory volume and hydration status, essential information when evaluating a bird nearing race condition. With observation complete, we move to the heart of the assessment, the musculoskeletal system. Handling a racing pigeon is an art. The experienced hand immediately detects tone, weight, and balance. The bird should feel strong and full, yet astonishingly light, a sensation fanciers call buoyancy. When a pigeon reaches peak form, it seems to float in the hand, light as cork, not because it is underweight, but because its musculature is dense and its fat has been metabolized efficiently. This buoyancy is the physical signature of metabolic readiness. Balance is just as important. A properly built pigeon should rest neutrally in the hand. If it leans forward or backward, the aerodynamic and skeletal symmetry is not correct, and long-distance performance will suffer. But it is the pectoral muscles, the engine of flight, that tell the richest story. Palpation reveals everything: fitness, fatigue, injury, and metabolic strain. A fit pigeon presents flight muscles that are rounded, full, and firm, yet supple. But when these muscles soften, it suggests inadequate conditioning. When they harden, a more troubling condition emerges: myositis. Myositis is the inflammation created when the bird has been pushed beyond its functional fitness capacity. Lactic acid accumulates, muscles bruise chemically, and the bird may even flinch when touched. This is not a bird ready for a race. This is a bird suffering from silent overwork. Color adds another dimension. Healthy muscles are pink, a declaration of oxygenation. When the keel remains white and a small, conditioned spot appears, it tells us the bird is both healthy and stress-free. But when the keel turns pink, or when muscles shift toward purple, we are witnessing the body crossing its anaerobic threshold too often or too intensely. And blue muscles, those are the gravest warning. Blue indicates hypoxia, poor recovery, or systemic disease, issues that none of the greatest bloodlines can outrun. Even the skin reveals truth. Fit birds often show thin, transparent skin over their flight muscles, stretched smooth by the development of muscle volume. Below the muscles, the skeleton forms the foundation. A pigeon with a weak foundation cannot win. No amount of training, nutrition, or lineage can compensate for structural flaws that absorb energy instead of transmitting it. The keel should be long, straight, and deep. The chest should be full and rounded, projecting forward with confidence. Behind the keel lie the vent bones, two slender but critical supports that must be strong, firm, and close together. If these bones spread too easily or feel flexible, the bird lacks the structural integrity required for efficient propulsion. Such birds waste energy with every wing beat. Then comes a simple but revealing test: light pressure on the rump. A strong bird remains silent, but if a grunting sound emerges, it is the body telling us that its structure is too compliant, too weak, too inefficient to endure. Now we move outward to the wings, the aerodynamic interface with the sky. Feathers are not merely decoration. They are aerodynamic tools, engineered for lift, thrust, and endurance. Top pigeons possess feathers that are smooth, silky, soft, and naturally greasy. This grease creates a hydrophobic coating that protects the plumage during flight and maintains structural integrity. Look closely at the 8th and 9th primaries. The greasy spot found there is nature's distribution system, spreading protective oils across the wing during motion. The wing structure itself mimics the airfoil of an airplane. A slightly parabolic curve creates lift, and just like a rowing oar, the wing functions as a lever. A shorter forearm provides better leverage, allowing more powerful thrust at the wingtip. The primaries, the last four feathers, are the engine of thrust. When they are curved, ventilated, and positioned correctly, the pigeon produces efficient forward power even in adverse weather. The secondaries, by contrast, create lift. They must overlap like roof tiles. If this seal is compromised, air leaks through during the downstroke, forcing the flight muscles to work harder. A leaky wing is an energy drain that can cost a race long before the pigeon reaches the finish. With the wings assessed, attention turns to the head, specifically the eyes and throat. A healthy eye shines. It glistens with clarity, moisture, and alertness. The pupil responds sharply to changes in light, shrinking to a pinhead in the sun and widening in dimness. A fading eye is a red flag, often signaling digestive infection, systemic stress, or generalized illness. The eye sign debate is one of the oldest in pigeon racing. Some swear by it, others dismiss it entirely. But regardless of belief, one truth stands firm. Functional health always outweighs structural theory. A sharp, responsive eye with a strong PLR is more valuable than any ring, circle, or iris pattern. Inside the mouth, the mucous membranes should glow with a healthy pink. The throat should be clean and quiet, the choana moderately open, and the choanal papillae sharp and symmetric. When these papillae appear blunted, it almost always indicates a vitamin A deficiency, a problem that weakens the respiratory lining and opens the door to infection. In a racing pigeon, this nutritional vulnerability becomes a performance vulnerability. Next, we evaluate the extremities. Clean, well-colored feet suggest healthy circulation. Pale feet often indicate low peripheral blood pressure, a sign that systemic illness may be brewing beneath the surface. And finally, we step into the realm of clinical pathology, the scientific confirmation of what the hands, eyes, and instincts have already perceived. Blood tells the truth. It quantifies what the muscles feel, what the keel shows, and what the feathers hide. A complete blood count reveals infection, stress, dehydration, and overall systemic wellness. The packed cell volume, or PCV, measures the bird's oxygen-carrying capacity, one of the most critical determinants of endurance. Creatinine phosphokinase, CPK, exposes muscle damage. When these levels are high, they confirm myositis, overtraining, or tissue strain. Serum bile acids reveal how efficiently the liver can process and mobilize fat, the primary fuel of long-distance flight. When SBA rises, the liver struggles. And when the liver struggles, the pigeon cannot convert conditioning into performance. Together, these numbers bridge the final gap between observation and certainty. In the end, the evaluation must be synthesized into a clear prediction, a picture of where the bird truly stands. Structural integrity reveals whether the pigeon has the physical foundation for competition. Muscle tone, color, and buoyancy tell us whether training volume matches physiological capacity. The wing determines the aerodynamics of efficiency. The throat and papillae tell us whether respiratory defenses are strong enough for stress. The blood validates every suspicion, every hope, every insight. A champion is not created by chance. It is developed through patience, observation, and relentless attention to detail. When these assessments are performed consistently and interpreted skillfully, the fancier gains the ability to manage each pigeon as an individual athlete, adjusting workload, nutrition, rest, and race entry with precision. This is the art and science of evaluating a racing pigeon. This is how instinct becomes knowledge. This is how knowledge becomes performance. And in the end, this is how a bird becomes a champion.